Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatang Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Himavadivyascha Visundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. We say these prayers to invoke the blessings of our Guru Varga, because, as Guru Maharaj says, without the grace of Sri Guru, we are lifeless clay. So, everything, it's not that we're like very good or pretty good people, and then you connect with the Gurus and you become extraordinary. The real devotional point of view is to come to the point of realizing you're nothing without the grace or the mercy of the Vaishnavas. So, in time we realize that. In time. So, there's a special group of devotees who are my old friends. I call them the trifecta, which is a term Maharaj is not unfamiliar with. And trifecta means 3 times perfect. Right? And that means Srila Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Rakhak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. Somehow we have the good fortune of having connection with Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Janardan Maharaj. He is one of Prabhupada's most senior disciples. Prabhupada had so much faith in him that he made him a lifelong GBC appointed. You're my lifeline in case I need to call. And very intimate relationship he had with Prabhupada for so long. And then with Srila Guru Maharaj, and lastly with Srila Gurudev, whom he used to say that Janardan Maharaj is my best friend, which was kind of amazing to hear that. And we could understand when we saw their affectionate dealings. And so for this and many other reasons, and I think it's appropriate to mention at this time, because we have the Chinese devotees visiting and we're welcoming them all to Chiang Mai and Gupta Govardhan. But it's for these reasons that Yudamanyu Seva Vikram Prabhu selected Janardan Maharaj to initiate the people that he would find to bring to Krishna consciousness, because he had complete faith in his representation of the spiritual substance of Krishna consciousness, and also his lifelong fidelity and attitude of always surrendering to the responsibility, the grave responsibility of being Guru and guiding the disciples. So, what I like to mention at this time, it's Srila Guru Maharaj named Yudamanyu Prabhu, gave him this title, Seva Vikram, because it means like valorous servitor. And what is valor? It's a word we don't hear much these days, but it means when someone like is on the battlefield, the most brave soldier who risked their own life to defeat the enemy and save their own soldiers. That's the Vikram. And so when we were promoting Srila Guru Maharaj, it was Yudamanyu Prabhu, Seva Vikram, and Jivanaditi, who came from the very beginning and dedicated their lives exclusively to promoting Srila Guru Maharaj, to the extent that when he was in South Africa, he was attacked and beaten for promoting Guru Maharaj. And at that time, Gurudev and Guru Maharaj gave him this title, Seva Vikram, that he's willing to risk his life, his blood, in promoting Srila Guru Maharaj and the service of his holy lotus feet. And we always, he's like they call avant-garde, the the most forward group of soldiers who are risking losing their lives to promote the cause. So wherever there was some, how do you say, the most difficult situation. Yudamanyu Prabhu didn't go to where the easiest place was, but where there was the greatest degree of difficulty, you could say. And what to speak of China. And how many years did he live there? 13 years. We hear the word yuga. You know, you hear the devotees talk about yuga all the time. It's interesting. Yuga can mean like Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga, etc. You know, it can mean hundreds of thousands of years. But interestingly, sometimes Prabhupada would translate yuga as 12 years or more. When Mahaprabhu was expressing his separation from Krishna, so I asked Guru Maharaj once, I said, why is he translating yuga as 12 or more? Like, I don't understand that. And Guru Maharaj said, he said, there's another concept that a 12-year period is like a yuga, right? So we can say that Yudamanyu Prabhu, he dedicated a yuga in China, right? The Yuda Yuga of China, where he established the conception of Srila Guru Maharaj and brought all of you shining, beautiful servitors to the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev and Srila Janardan Maharaj. So we're very pleased with that, and that we have the opportunity to participate in service to the Chinese mission. Here, who you met, Lilavati, she came first. She joined in Chiang Mai, not in China. We were not preaching anything in China. She was living in Chiang Mai and joined here. Right? Then she brought her friend, Sulakshana, and they're still here. But sometimes they said, oh, we have to go, our visa, we need to go to Shenzhen. I go, what is Shenzhen? Oh, it's next to Hong Kong. Oh. And then we got some connection. And the rest, as they say, is history. But I remember when Yudamanyu Prabhu was visiting in Chiang Mai the first time, and he heard Lilavati leading the evening kirtan, the Gora Arati and the other songs, singing them by heart and playing the mridanga and leading the kirtan. He came running to my room, and we know how when he gets very excited, he goes, Maharaj! You know, like, I go, what? He goes, I don't believe it! And I'm going like, what? What happened? There's a Chinese girl in the temple and she's singing all the songs and playing the mridanga. And I said, yeah, it's amazing. But he was like ready to faint. He said, how difficult it is to teach them to say, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, and this girl's leading the kirtan, you know, and playing the mridanga. So he was really, his heart was melted and he was overwhelmed by seeing that. And we know he's the greatest friend, actually, of the Chinese people and the leader of our mission there. He alone deserves the credit for taking Chaitanya Saraswati Mata to China and spreading Srila Guru Maharaj's conception and pleasing Gurudev thereby doing. And the Chinese girls came to India, and normally there's always some servitor there, like Gopal or someone else, or Jamuna Priya Bhakti. Somebody's always, Gurudev always has someone around him. But I was in my room, and I came out and I saw, and I thought, what was that artist girl's name? Urmila. I looked out to see, and it was one of these rare moments. There was no one there except Gurudev and her. And they were both like enjoying each other's company. They weren't even like saying so much, but like, it was a very sweet, I looked out and I said, oh, it's just the two of them. And she's very happy and Gurudev's very happy and they're smiling, and it's the famous heart-to-heart transaction. So we're still in remembrance of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas, our Guru Varga and Yudamanyu Prabhu Seva Vikram, all auspiciousness comes to us. And not only now, but during the year, I think of Janardan Maharaj so many times, because he's someone I can share my intimate feelings with, or I've known him since 1973, and which I guess now is a long time, right?
45 years.
I'm not good at math. How much is it?
45.
45 years. Since we were brought together, and I always think, like, if I have Janardan Maharaj's backing, then maybe I'm okay going in the right direction. And I think with such Vaishnavas as him, encouraging us with his backing and kind-heartedness and good sense of humor, then everything's going to be okay. And Avadut Maharaj here, whenever he's thinking of anything, whenever we have a discussion, inevitably he will say, but will like Janardan Maharaj approve of it? That's a very important thing, that Janardan Maharaj approve. And same with Paramananda Prabhu and Krishna Priyaditi, when we contemplate anything, like, does it pass the Janardan Maharaj test? And which is not an easy test to pass, but if you do, then you know that everything's going to be all right. So I've taken up more time than I should have, but now it's my great honor and privilege to, and most people know he's famous all over the world, but there could have been someone, or there are viewers, there are people watching in different places, maybe they don't know who he is. I doubt it. He's world famous, but so Maharaj, if you'll say some kind words to the devotees here, and who, even if they're not directly your disciples, they're your fans, friends, and followers.
What?
And I forgot to mention, he's the leader of our SoCal ashram in California, which is totally beautiful. He's the charge of California and America, and happily resides there, where Hashapriya Prabhu is the Mat manager. And there's assembled probably the greatest assembly of that trifecta group who have connection with Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, and Srila Gurudev. They're concentrated there, and Maharaj is in charge of everyone. Hare Krishna.
Before I came to China, I worked with Yudamanyu for many years in California, because we started in San Jose. We rented a place on 17th Street in San Jose. And I was for a long time living with Ramai. Ramai and myself, we were staying at Shrudashrava's house in Santa Cruz. And Srila Govinda Maharaj knew that we wanted to start the temple in San Jose. It had already been started years ago by Goswami Maharaj. And we were going to start, but Govinda Maharaj waited, and he was waiting for Yudamanyu to come from Thailand to America. And it wasn't until Yudamanyu would come that Govinda Maharaj gave us permission to start the preaching in San Jose. So he came and he asked me, we walked into the 17th Street place, which is actually a beautiful house. It's kind of like a landmark in San Jose, because it was done in the Art Deco style. And architecturally, it's very beautiful. So he had me walk into the place, and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Wow, it's beautiful." And we took possession, we moved into that place on December 7th of 1991. That was Pearl Harbor Day.
Oh, December 7th, right.
Yeah. But it was a beautiful day, and everything went very well. And we worked together for years. I don't know when it was that Yudamanyu asked me to go to China and help with them, but maybe, a number of years after that. And we worked together, and, so we had a working relationship. I think that's more than anything what went into effect. There's a saying in Spanish, it goes something like, mejor el mal conocido que el bien por conocer, which means it's better something that you know is bad than something that may be good but you don't know. Like, you could apply it to buying a new used car or something like that.
Uh-huh.
You don't know what you're getting into, in other words. But we'd been working together, and sometimes we'd be in the kitchen yelling at each other and things like that.
Out of intense affection.
Yeah. Well, Yudamanyu, he had strong opinions.
About everything.
I had strong opinions. Yudamanyu also, his nature, a lot of times he would say, you'd say, you couldn't hide anything from him. He was always probing, You'd go to a place and, he'd say, well, what, did they say anything about me? Oh, they just mentioned you. And then he said, what'd they say? And then you'd try and skirt
soften it.
And he'd say, come on.
What did they really say?
It's always like very intense,
And he was from Seattle, Washington, and there's a famous mountain there, St. Helen, and it blew up like a volcano. So it's called Mount St. Helen. So later, Yudamanyu would blow up, so it became known as he's pulling a Mount Yuda.
Mount St. Yuda.
Yeah, Mount St. Yuda, when he would explode into one of his divine emotional outbursts.
So we worked together for years, and then after a while, he'd been working, initially, and some people were initiated in name of Srila Acharya Maharaj. But then he asked to work with me because he knew he wanted me to go the country. He wanted me to go there. So, how could I not say yes? I mean, it's somebody like request you to do some service, it's like, you can't say, no, I'm not going to do that service. What kind of a selfish, mean attitude that would be. So I agreed. And sometimes I'm very strongly aware of my shortcomings. I mean, that happens quite often, that one's reminded of one shortcoming. There is another saying in Spanish that says, el diablo sabe más por viejo que por diablo. And that means the devil knows more because of being old than by being a devil. He's got more job qualification.
Experience.
Yeah, job qualification by being old.
Uh-huh.
So, something comes with something.
Your humility is breaking our heart.
I don't know that it's humility. It's just like after a while, like sometimes people do things that are amazing, and you look and you think, well, I'm saying this a little facetiously, but you look and you say, well, he's very nice, but he's a new kid on the block, And in that respect, I'm not saying this derogatorily about anyone, but I remember one saying that Srila Prabhupada said. He talked about the difference between the old crows and the new crows. You know that story, right?
I forgot.
He said the crows, sometimes flies land on stool, and the crows like to eat those flies. He said, but when they go to peck the flies, they also, along with the flies, get a mouthful of stool, the crows. So he said, the old crows, they like the flies and they don't like the stool, but they just tolerate it because they need to get the flies. He said the new crows, they like the flies, they like the stool, they're enchanted with the whole thing. So he gave that as an example between what he called new crows and old crows. And sometimes I'll see people that, are very, very enthusiastic about certain things, and, like they'll, sometimes, and it's, we were like that when we were young too, but sometimes they, thinking that I don't want to eat, I don't want to sleep, I just want to engage myself in hearing the holy name or something like that. And that's very nice. But as time goes by, you'll see that with one of the things of surrender, of Sharanagati, is to accept everything that's favorable for devotion and to reject everything that's unfavorable for devotion. And sometimes, it may be that what you think is favorable, if you extend yourself beyond your limitations, that may not be favorable. In the long run, it may result in some reaction.
Yeah.
We've seen people, suffer from, just speaking frankly, people suffering from sleep deprivation and their motor responses aren't adequate, which, you have to be able to proceed, as one example that has been, mentioned many, many, many times, but Srila Prabhupada is saying that on the ground, you can get instruction like on a plane. You can get instruction, from Guru, from Shastra and everything. But there comes a time when you have to be able to fly your own plane. And that means you have to be able to avail yourself, or you have to know what those instructions are, and you have to remember them. But at the same time, you have to know, you have to be able to think how you're going to react to a particular situation, because sometimes things require a decision, and it may not be something you can just quote out of a book or remember from, a saying that in this incident this happened. Sometimes you actually have to be able to make a decision. And in making that decision, you may make the right decision and you may make a wrong decision also. You're not guaranteed to be able to react perfectly to every situation. You may have to react, and you may have to react and make a wrong decision. And I know that sometimes in doing so, it's not always a good thing, because your decisions affect more people than yourself. There are many people that, are dependent on what you're going to say, how you're going to express yourself. They want to feel some shelter or some inspiration, or at least have some confidence in what's being said. So I'm mentioning like that. But
when Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, he liked to chant the holy name all the time. So he went in the so-called jungle of Baliyati in Bangladesh now. And he is there chanting a lakh of Krishna Nam. It's 64 rounds a day. And Guru Maharaj was in charge of the Delhi Mat at the time. And he was thinking of inviting him to help him do the seva of the Delhi Mat. But he thought, maybe, there's so many statements in the scripture in favor of the holy name, and maybe he's doing the desirable thing, and I would be interrupting that by asking him to come and help me in the mat. So he wrote a letter to Saraswati Thakur expressing this. And Guru Maharaj said, Saraswati Thakur wrote back a letter saying, if you will engage him in service in the Delhi Mat, you will be his real friend. He said, because I don't recognize, and he used the expression, counting beads, he called it. Counting beads in the jungle of Baliyati is Krishnanushilana, is favorable. We think, no, that should be the most favorable thing. He said, I don't recognize that. If you'll engage him in seva, service at the mat, you'll be doing you'll be his real friend and doing him a favor.
And that was coming from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And I mean, if something's coming from him.
Who, before he began Gaudiya Mat, chanted a lakh a day and the vows for monthly and all that. He came out of that to do seva.
So,
any questions anyone has for Maharaj?
There is one question from interviewer. Srila Guru Maharaj is saying that imitation is not experience, or repetition of sensation.
The repetition of sensation is not experience.
And at the same time, we know the example also of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who was chanting, taking the holy name in his bhajan kutir, and another guy who was joining him, sitting next to him, imitating
makes a
him,
bhajan. He builds a place just like his. Yeah.
Yes. And with the famous saying of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji and Maharaj that you can enter the...
If a lady enters the labor room, that's where you have a baby, and she starts, going, oh, making sounds and all the sounds of labor. He's saying that doesn't mean she will produce a baby, because that man was in his hut imitating what he heard. And Gaur Kishore, sometimes maybe Babaji Maharaj is expressing some ecstasy, crying out or wailing or lamenting. And so he's in his kutir, counting beads and imitating Babaji Maharaj. So he said, famously, if a lady enters the labor room and makes all these noises, it doesn't mean that she produces a child. And Guru Maharaj said, there had to be certain activities before that.
Yeah,
and the question is?
But in addition to that, why is it that she couldn't produce, that person, the lady imitating, why is it she couldn't produce a baby?
No conception.
No conception. So that means if we're engaged in devotional service, but we don't carry any conception with us,
right?
Then that is like what's the verse in the Dharma svanustita pumsam vishvaksenakata suyaha notpadayed yadi ratim shrama eva kevalam.
Simply a useless waste of time.
Just a useless waste of time.
And to carry the analogy further, like what would misconception result in? You could say miscarriage. You get the bhakti lata bead, I got the conceptual seed. Yes, but then if you go off on your own way and are not true to what you hear from Guru and Vaishnav, Sadhu and Shastra, you end up with a miscarriage, some horrible thing, not the child of that devotion. But what's the question?
So in our current position, we resemble those imitationists. And
in our current position, I would say, it should say, in our current position, do we resemble those imitationists? Because I would say no, but Maharaj will answer.
So, and when the real seva starts for us, so when that pretending is over and the real seva starts, how can we recognize it?
I can give a brief answer and then Maharaj will give an extensive answer. The reason we're not doing that is because we're following the advice of Sadhu, Shastra, Guru and Vaishnav. Right? We're following what we heard from Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj and Gurudev. That's our primary method of movement. Like Guru Maharaj said, Senyal, Professor Senyal, who we learn many things from, he said, if I read Bhagavatam on my own, it may be karma, it may be vikarma. Only if I'm reading Bhagavatam under the order of the Guru, then it may be devotion. May even not be, but at least it has the chance to be devotion then. But if it's just my idea, then you're on your own. And it could be karma, or it could be vikarma, something very undesirable. So that's one thing. The other thing, and this I'll finish now, is Guru Maharaj gave the example of mock fighting. And mock fighting means the soldiers, they do mock battles to prepare for the war. So he's saying Archan, Puja, but I added this to it. We could say when you're with a deity, because really Krishna's there, but what is our capacity to appreciate? It's like mock fighting with live ammunition. So he's really there. Our capacity to appreciate that is small, but why do we do it? Under the order of our Guru and Vaishnav. We're proceeding that way. We don't think we have any special capacity for this, but we're following their direction. That's why we do these things. So in that sense, we're not imitating, but we're warned repeatedly by our Guru Varga about imitation, because it's a tendency that we all have. It's like we used to think, like when Prabhupada's always railing against Mayavadis and Sahajiyas, and some devotee said, Prabhupada, who are these? And he said, you are. And they, what he meant was the hardcore Mayavadis are in India and Sahajiyas and all that. But what he's talking about, these are tendencies that we all have. And when we drift off on our own or become overwhelmed by our minds, then we can enter the world of imitation or abstract thought. What did Guru Maharaj tell Gurudev when he first came and is accepting him? A very simple question, but very important and very profound. He said, are you ready to listen to me and follow me instead of your own mind? And Gurudev said this in London to me once. He goes, like Maharaj saying about young and old. He said, I was young, so I said, yes. He said, but I didn't realize how difficult this would be in time to follow what my Guru Maharaj says and not listen to my mind. But Swamiji.
There's also, I feel, that another aspect, and that is there's two ways. One is emotion and one is devotion. Yeah. So you may do an activity, devotional activity, but you may do it with emotion rather than
mundane
devotion.
Sentiment.
Yeah, mundane sentiments. And that's really sometimes hard to distinguish. Mm-hmm. Like, there's some person we see like Srila Goswami Maharaj, who's very much in control of his emotions.
Yes.
And we remember reading the phrase that, a Vaishnava, he can be hard like a thunderbolt and soft like a rose.
Yeah.
So sometimes being very much in control of one's emotions can appear to be hard like a thunderbolt. And sometimes Gurudev would joke, but
sometimes thunderbolt is good.
Yeah, sometimes it's very good, because I know difference between emotion and devotion. Guru Maharaj, he comments that when we hear the stories of Ramayana,
yes,
and how Sita, and he says that can evoke tears from
yes.
us. So there are situations where somebody can react even to a mundane situation, such as seeing a sad scene from a movie, right, or a play. It may bring tears from one's eyes.
Yes.
So, but that's not, so sometimes we're reacting to things emotionally, and we're not always reacting to things devotionally. And that can lead to some difficulties because one is proceeding sometimes on the basis of sentiment. And that sentiment may not be the right...
Genuine.
Well, it may also lead one into a wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
You may say, oh, this poor person, why don't we help
them? Yes.
Yeah, but...
Humanitarianism, altruism.
Yeah, but sometimes being in that situation, one doesn't realize, one can't really see what is proper help to be able to administer to somebody.
Yeah.
Is just administering to their temporary, emotions.
Misfortune, or
Yeah.
I remember Prabhupada on the so-called happening, where he explains the Maha Mantra after he chants. Long ago, as explained on the cover of the record album. Yeah. He had this one statement. He's explaining what it means to chant and everything. This one simple thing he said stuck in my mind and heart for many years. He said, when you say Hare, calling out to Radharani, and in his context he said Mother. But he said that pure chanting, he said, is like the genuine cry of a child for its mother. Right? He didn't just say the cry of a child for its mother. He said the genuine cry of a child for its mother. So we see sometimes that some child is apparently crying and people say to the mother, why don't you take care of it? And she goes, it's not real. She's the mother, she knows. These are false tears. It's just a child who's whining. But when the child is really crying out for help from the mother, she's coming immediately and giving herself to the child. But it appears superficially to be the same thing.
Yeah, like carrying it to a different level. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a description where a Brahmin appears to Jagannath Mishra in a dream.
Uh-huh.
And he says, you are chastising your son, and you do not understand who he really is. He is, a special boy, and he strongly reprimands Jagannath Mishra. And then Jagannath Mishra says, he may be Narayan, he may be Shiva, he may be whoever he is, but I believe he is my son. And if I do not properly teach him and educate him, then then he
derelict in my duty.
Yeah. And he said, and it says, Jagannath Mishra says in his dream that Brahman was very happy with his response.
And it shows the triumph of Vatsalya Rasa. Nanda Maharaj makes similar statements.
But there are so many situations that if we react emotionally to the situation, we may miss understanding what is real bhakti. We may overlook what is real bhakti, and we may be carried away by some temporary sentiment. And I'm not pretending to be like an emblem of, of understanding what is pure devotion. But like Goswami Maharaj has said, I am trying to follow under the directions of the Vaishnavas, and in particular under the directions of our acharyas. And I find in that way, I will be proceeding properly. Govinda Maharaj once said, I know if you fall into the Govinda Kund, you may walk upside down in the Govinda Kund, but when you come out, I know you'll be right side up. It's his way of saying things. His way of saying things.
And also, Guru, and it's not like we're preaching down to anyone. Guru Maharaj and Gurudev as well, and Prabhupada, their humility, they did not exempt themselves from these considerations. So Guru Maharaj would tell you, he was brutally honest about his own say, path in Krishna consciousness. So he says, for example, you're making me think of this. This Sushir Kumar Ghosh, who was the editor of a big newspaper a long time ago, he wrote a book called Ami Animai Charit in Bengali, or Lord Gauranga in English. And it was a little bit from Chaitanya Bhagavat, something from Charitamritam, Chaitanya Mangal, etc. And Guru Maharaj says, when he was a college student, he said, I devoured it like nectar. So he says that. But then he comes to Gaudiya Math, and under the tutelage, the guidance of Saraswati Thakur, when this book is mentioned, said, a man of real devotion won't find anything there. And then he says this famous saying, Nija Boge Gorila Gauranga. He's presented the Gauranga. Bog means what's enjoyable to him, what amuses him about Gauranga. That's what he's presenting. There's a reason Kaviraj Goswami presents in his way, Vrindavan Das in his way, and others in their way. And not you take a little bit from here or there and you blend it all together and think this will be appealing to people. So Guru Maharaj, even being Guru Maharaj, he readjusted himself with his Guru's thinking, with Saraswati Thakur's thinking. And I remember the devotees always thought they could find something Guru Maharaj doesn't know. So this one scholarly sannyasi says, you know, I found one Chaitanya Charitamritam in English that was published before Swami Maharaj's. You know, like in the 50s or something. And everyone, oh, really? You know. And then Guru Maharaj said, did he publish Antya Leela first? And they go, why, yes, he did. And Guru Maharaj says, oh, yes. He said, that man, his wife had died recently, and he thought that gave him some special insight into the Viraha Bhav, the separation experienced by Mahaprabhu. And he's presenting his realizations there. And everyone started to vomit, you know. So Chaitanya Charitamritam, the highest book, the highest subject matter, and he's showing, like Sanatana Goswami, a Vaishnavo, oh this is interesting, a Vaishnavo Mukhodgirnam Putam Harikatamritam Sravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sarpochistam Yatapayo. Don't hear Harikatha, which is nectar, Amrita. Where is Amrita? All right. Harikatha is Amrita, and it gives us Ananda as well. We'll work everybody in somehow. But it's, so you think well, wait, hearing about Krishna, isn't that what we're supposed to do? It's life-saving nectar, according to the Braja Gopis. Sanatana Goswami was saying, don't hear, if someone's not a qualified Vaishnava in this line, don't hear from them. And he said, what is it like? Milk touched by the lips of a serpent. It becomes poisonous. And we always thought, are there any examples of this? You know, and I tell you, 2 days ago, you can look on the internet, and I mean, it's a sad thing, but a lady in India, she got bit by a cobra in the night. And she has a little baby, and she breastfed the baby, and they both died of poisoning. This happened 2 days ago. Her system became, so he's saying, when the person is envious of Krishna or his genuine devotees, they're talking about Krishna. It has, even though it's the ultimate nectar, it has a poisonous effect. It no longer is life-saving nectar. So it matters what is the motive in the heart.
Yeah, like that, there was a book I was reading, the Mahabharata by Kamala Subramaniam.
Yeah, right.
But she's envious of Krishna.
Right. Krishna doesn't come off divinely there.
No, and she really likes Karna.
Right.
So what's like, we would say, oh, this is another expression I was teaching, you know. The expression is, she doesn't like Krishna, she likes Karna, so you go, the modern, you say, what's wrong with this picture? You know.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with reading the Mahabharata and not liking Krishna. You know, what are you reading?
Yes, and Gurudev always telling this simple phrase, but heart-to-heart transaction. It's not just a question of getting information. You can go on the internet and get any information about anything. Then what do you need a guru for, or the Vaishnava? Why? Because they give heartfelt interpretation that they got from their gurus. We're presenting what we got from Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and Gurudev. Very little is, you could say, our own realization. It's predominantly, you know, I'd say in the high 90s. Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, Gurudev. We have some fidelity. Remember the old RCA thing, and they'd show the dog with the gramophone and says, his master's voice. Gurudev knew about that. They show the dog, it's the old Victrola. You know, you wind the thing up and it plays the vinyl record, and the dog is listening with rapt attention because it's his master's voice. So their company is saying, we have high fidelity. What is fidelity? You know, adeste fidelity. You know, fidelity means faithful. We're faithful. So when we're faithful to what we've heard from our Guru Varga, then you can hear the voice of Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, Gurudev through us, and it's something substantial. And then we also feel like we're doing some seva.
So that was the expression. And I heard that from Srila Govinda Maharaj, warning about there's a actual distinction between emotion and devotion.
Yeah.
And they may appear to be very, you know, similar. But if one proceeds with emotion rather than devotion, one is on a very precarious path.
Yeah, and then some other type of sentiment may come, and then one leaves the path of devotion.
Yeah, it's not, if one proceeds like that, it's not unreasonable or I won't use the word unreasonable, let's just say it's not, it can be that the person may experience some delusion,
yeah,
or some disenchantment,
yeah,
become disenchanted. And I remember when I was very young, I was with the devotees, and I was very rebellious because, you know, sometimes people would say and do things based on what seemed like rote, you know, that it was just some stodgy or stuffy decision.
Right.
So I used to associate sometimes with other devotees who were also young. They were a little rebellious. And one of them, I remember I went to see him in the hospital. Something happened, he was in the hospital. And he made a remark about our guru, and he said, and this is when I I could see the distinction between emotion and devotion, because we were rebellious, but at one point he said about our guru, he said, who does he think he is? And I said, he's your spiritual master. Who do you think he is?
Uh-huh.
And after that, I never wanted to associate with that person again.
Yeah.
You know, so I can see that sometimes if one proceeds emotionally, you know, you may hear an order or an instruction or a recommendation that goes against your emotional sentiments.
Yes.
And I was mentioning the other day, actually, when I was in India, and in the beginning we could go to India and we could stay, and 1 year would go by and we could just renew our visa without going out of the country. So like that, when 4 years went by and they just renewed my visa. But then they changed the laws, and you could no longer just go into the office and renew your visa. You had to go out of the country and then come back in. So my visa, I'd been in India for 4 years, and I had to leave the country. So my idea was to come to Thailand, get another visa, and come right back to India. And Srila Prabhupada told me, oh, when you go to Bangkok, when you go to Thailand, do one thing: open a temple there. And then I said, but I'm going there to get a visa and come back. And then Srila Prabhupada said, there is a Bengali saying that the reaping machine will reap paddy in heaven or hell. In other words, this machine is going to cut rice, going to harvest rice, and the machine doesn't care where it is. It just works. It reaps the paddy. So then Prabhupada said, we have to be like that reaping machine. So, I had my idea. I wanted to be in India, and Prabhupada was telling me that I should open a temple in Thailand. So I did that, and after some months, it became time for Gaur Purnima, and it was time then I would be expected to be back in Gaur Purnima. So I went into the Indian embassy in Bangkok, and then they said, well, you applied for another kind of visa, so you can't apply for a tourist visa, so you'll have to wait to hear about that. So then I got on a plane, and I went to Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Hong Kong with the idea, which worked, that I would get a tourist visa and go back for Gaur Purnima. So then when I got to Hong Kong, I wound up going to at that time the temple was in Kowloon. And I walked up the stairs, and I walked into the room, and I'm going off for my dandavats, and then who was sitting there but Srila Prabhupada? He had arrived an hour before me. I didn't know he was going to Hong Kong, but he happened to be there. So then he says, oh, before I could even get up, he says, oh, you have arrived. That's good. Now you can take charge of the Hong Kong temple. And it was not something that was at the top of my list at the time. I was still with the idea I wanted to get back to India and stay in India. But at that point, I realized, if I bring up this again, that I want to be in India to Srila Prabhupada. He's already given the example of the reaping machine, so I'm not going to get much mileage with that.
Yeah.
And I just said, I just began to think more fast than me should have. And I just said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, but I can speak Spanish. Maybe I should go and preach in Latin America. And then Prabhupada said, that is not important. In other words, forget it, kid. You're just going to be here in Hong Kong.
Yes.
So then I went to Gaur Purnima, and then I came back to Hong Kong. And that's actually, then I was there about 6 months in Hong Kong. So I actually got a little bit of experience at that time of what it. Of course, Hong Kong at that time was an English colony. It wasn't part of China at the time. And I think around 1999 or something.
97.
97.
It went back.
It went back to China. So, but I had some experience at that time of just being in Hong Kong, maybe different than China. And a lot of people in Hong Kong felt like, you might say, separated from their real country, because they were in Hong Kong, and at that time they couldn't go back to the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
So they were almost like almost in detention,
mm-hmm.
almost in detention, because they couldn't go back. They couldn't even go back to Canton or anything, they were just stuck in
where they have relatives.
Yeah, or whatever. So anyway, then we could appreciate a little bit. Then you start to see, whether it's Bangkok or whether it's China, there is a difference in culture of people. And one of the things that I've seen is that if you're going to preach or talk to people, you have to first be able to listen to them. You have to listen to what they have to say. You can't just become like a parrot or a recording machine that just starts saying phrases that you've memorized. You actually have to be able to listen to what persons are saying and be able to understand something of what's going on with them. Otherwise, you're kind of in a useless position, as trying to, because ultimately part of preaching is that you want to help people. You don't want to just impose something foreign on people. And that was one of the things that was originally expressed about a true acharya. A true acharya will be able to adjust things according to time, place, and circumstance. So every place is different, and every circumstance is different, and time changes. And sometimes you have to be able to anticipate what will be. You can't just think in terms of what is being said, but you have to be able to anticipate and think a little. If I proceed in this direction, this will take me down a particular way of thinking which may or may not be appropriate. Mm-hmm. And then you have to stop and be able to hear a little more and know.
Adjust.
Otherwise...
Even Prabhupada, when he went to America, he thought he was going to make a temple that would have like brahmacharis and sannyasis in it. And then so many women came. And normally in India, the women don't stay in the temple. That's for the monks, the brahmacharis, sannyasis. But all these girls came. Some of them were artists, and they're very sincere. And then Prabhupada realized, and his heart melted by they're so sweet and sincere. He made adjustments and said, how can I refuse them? They must be included. And some of the people back in India, hearing that, they thought he was making some compromise or lowering the standards, but he was not. He was being inclusive. So like you said, sometimes you're prepared. He was not prepared for that. It was thrust upon him, and then he made a judgment call. And we see in time, he made some adjustments in the temple, but he didn't send anyone away. He invited them in. And we see also in China, we have a very great response from the ladies section. So we just say, that's Krishna. He sent so many gopis because he's Krishna. Of course, he's sending the gopi section. So happily, we're accepting.
That's been one of the nice things about preaching in China. I've got to meet so many very nice people.
Yeah.
You go somewhere and that's like one of the benefits, to be able to meet wherever you go so many nice devotees, so many nice persons. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we heard that he expressed that he saw his disciples as extensions of his spiritual master.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty high conception.
Yes.
To be able to see that who is your helper or disciple, that they have been sent to you by your spiritual master to help in your
guru's
service.
Helping you, actually serving you by sending them.
That's very high. It's hard.
And Gurudev said this once on the veranda in Calcutta when a bunch of devotees were visiting from the West. And he said, in a very heartfelt, moving way, because he was overwhelmed. It was just packed, like Gaur Purnima time, and he said, "You are all gifts from Srila Guru Maharaj."
I heard also when Srila Govinda Maharaj was in St. Petersburg, what did he say? There were like so many people, hundreds of people in the room. And he told them, and some knew, some there, and he said, "You are all liberated." So he made an expression like that
yes,
all of them would get. You could say, what is liberation? They would all get Krishna consciousness.
yes.
Just
and
a
I asked
blanket
him about
spread.
that once, because sometimes he would say something like that, and he told me, he said, "I know who Srila Guru Maharaj is and where he is, and I know that you're all going there, so I'm very happy." And I say, your future is so bright, you can't imagine it. He said, "Because I know what that future is. But you can't see it right now, but I'm very happy knowing that that's in your future."
It was one time I was with one of my godbrothers, I was with Guru Maharaj, and he is a sannyasi godbrother from ISKCON. And he asked me, he said, well, if Srila Prabhupada was in one room and Srila Sridhar Maharaj was in another room, which room would you go into? That's what he asked me. And I told him, "Maharaj, I have bigger problems than that. This is not really a problem. I have much, much bigger problems than that."
I was asked a similar question by another one of our sannyasi, and he said, "I don't know how you do it." And I said, "What?" He said, "What is it, 50% Prabhupada and 50% Guru Maharaj, Sridhar Maharaj?" I said, "No, it's 100% Prabhupada and 100% Sridhar Maharaj." And he went, "Oh!"
So I told Govinda Maharaj about that conversation where I just answered, "Which room would you go into?" I said, and I meant it. I said, "I have bigger problems than that. This is not a problem. To know I'm in such a situation where I can either go into Prabhupada's room or Srila Sridhar Maharaj's room. That's not a problem. That's something nice. It's not a problem where you would go."
Right, if you're in a world where that's your option,
you're in a good place. Yeah.
yes,
So
then I'll have,
then I'll have. So when I told Govinda Maharaj, he said, "Well, if they asked me that question," he said, "I would go into Prabhupada's room first. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's room first." He says, "Because I know he'll be easier with me than Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Sridhar Maharaj will be stronger with me."
Yes. He once told me also, he said, if Guru Maharaj is angry at you and yelling at you, he said, you're okay. He said, but if he becomes silent and doesn't speak to you, then you're in trouble. He said, but if he is saying something, chastising you, he said, in your heart you can be happy because it means you're with him and he considers you worth chastising. You're all right. But if he becomes silent, you're in big trouble.
Srila Govinda Maharaj said one time he's a brahmachari and some man gave him a watch. And Guru Maharaj didn't like that because he didn't want his brahmacharis to have received expensive gifts or things.
Yeah, and this, we should say, was probably in the late 1940s, early 1950s. And Guru Maharaj is really old school to begin with.
And Guru Maharaj kind of kept on looking at his watch. And he said, one time Govinda Maharaj took his watch and smashed it on the ground and broke it. And then he said to Guru Maharaj, he said, now, are you happy? And Guru Maharaj smiled and said, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Hare Krishna.
that's certainly, we want to, that's a very, seems like a very simple, but a very, probably the most important one is that Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasha Prasada Nakadika Topi. That if one does what the spiritual master wants, and one makes advancement. And if one proceeds without being cognizant or without thinking about what one's spiritual master wants, then how you will make advancement in that situation.
Yeah. Because also the Guru is Radharani's delegation. So we can think of it that way. How can you please Krishna if she's not pleased? She is the one who's giving all service to Krishna. She knows how to serve Krishna. We don't. And it's coming down through the hierarchy of the Guru Parampara to our Guru. So Guru Maharaj, he said it very sweetly, he used these words. He said, we should accept Radharani's suggestion. I like that word because it implied like as if there was an option. But it's a poetic way of saying, it's not optional if you're a sincere servant to accept her, like you say, well, Radharani is suggesting this. Do we need to hear something else? Or do we have to say, why? Like Vaishnava Maharaj Srila Prabhu used to say, quoting, if you have to ask why, it's not devotion.
And that was one thing that Srila Govinda Maharaj said about Yudamanyu Seva Vikram. He said, he didn't ask many questions.
Yeah.
He just asked, will this be pleasing to you?
Yeah. Do you want this?
Do you want this? That's all he asked. He didn't ask complicated questions. But he did. I saw when I came to Guru Maharaj, Yudamanyu showed me his notebooks. And he would be in classes and things.
In classes he asked philosophical questions.
Yeah, and he took extensive notes. His notebook was full of notes. But at the same time, so, he is very keyed in to what were Guru Maharaj's conceptions.
Yes.
But at the same time, he didn't bother, his spiritual master with many questions. He just asked.
Personally.
He just asked, is this, do you want this? If the answer is yes, then he would do that. And many times he would ask, especially even as he getting older, he would ask to Govinda Maharaj, do you want me to stay
in China? Yeah.
And Govinda Maharaj would say yes.
Yes.
And that would be his instruction. And he would do that.
And with that comes some power and potency. Therefore he is so successful. It's like Avadut Maharaj was actually happily in New York and America and quite successful there. And when he got initiated by Gurudev, he was surprised. He said, what service do you want from me? He said, take Guru Maharaj to Russia. Guru Maharaj's conception. Avadut Maharaj had no plans to return to Russia, actually, if you ask him. He was in New York and really things were going well there. But Gurudev said, take Guru Maharaj and his conception to Russia. So immediately, and they got Vijay initiated, Satya, and they started the program from America to preach in Russia. And Sri Guru and His Grace, etc., and the rest, as they say, is history. But so in the future, Gurudev, he would be praising Vijay Raman Prabhu, who will turn 80 in a few days.
I wanted to say that Vijay Raman, he's in a few days on the 8th, isn't it?
Yes.
It will be his 80th birthday.
80th birthday.
So, sometimes
let me just finish this part.
But you see athletes on television, they go, hello, Mom. I just want to say, if Vijay Raman is watching this, my dandavats to Vijay Raman, that
I call him the father of the Russian mission.
So, I want to express that I am remembering him.
Yes.
And praying at his lotus feet, to be able to serve him. Because he's serving the Russian mission.
And Gurudev, when he would be in India, in Calcutta, deciding to go to Russia, he would say, I'm going to stay with Vijay Raman. He didn't say, I'm going to Russia, I'm going to stay with Vijay Raman Prabhu. And the last few visits, he didn't even leave Petersburg and go to Moscow. He stayed in Petersburg. How much happy he was to be there. And then he would give so much credit to Vijay Raman Prabhu and Avadut Maharaj for the Russian mission, as they deserve. But, interestingly, Avadut Maharaj and Vijay, they would say, we're just following your order. In the following your order, that's how all this happened. That's where all the potency came from and all the success, as you gave this order and we dedicated ourselves to following that simple order. He didn't give, as Maharaj said, explicit directions about it. He only said this, take Guru Maharaj's conception to Russia. Everything else they did. They used their intelligence and their resources to fulfill that order and do that seva. So they give all the credit to Gurudev, he gives all the credit to them. Welcome to the Krishna consciousness movement.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I also heard, while Avadut Maharaj was successful in New York,
yeah.
Those of us who know Vijay Raman, he's really a strong person. I mean, he, at 80 years old, he can do yoga very...
He just came back from trekking in the Himalayas.
Yeah. And I went with him once to Vrindavan. We were on the train from Calcutta, which was several days.
Yeah.
Because it's a slow train. And he doesn't speak hardly any English, at least he didn't then, and I didn't speak any Russian, but I could communicate with him the entire trip.
He has a mystic potency that when he speaks Russian to me, I can understand what he's saying.
And I said to him, we're on a moving train, and I said to him, so you know yoga? And he went like this. Rubbed his hands together, and in the middle of the moving train, did a handstand with his feet in the air. And he's an old, at that time, even then, he's an older man,
Yes.
But he could do these things very wonderfully. Anyway, and as Avadut Maharaj was successful in, this is where I may be wrong, but I heard while Avadut Maharaj was successful in New York, Vijay Raman, who's really old school as said, he opened a successful ice cream parlor in
Manhattan,
I guess, I thought it was in St. Petersburg.
Oh, in St. Petersburg.
Does anyone know about that? No.
What about restaurant?
What?
Restaurant like Jagannath Express or another one?
No, it was
separate.
Yeah, separate.
I heard it was, but that was specializing in ice cream. I heard.
It's a different enterprise, yes, you're correct. There was an ice cream parlor.
I see.
And the cafe.
So he's a visionary. He may have been around during the time of the Soviet Union, but he is with the times.
Yeah.
Ice cream, that is where it's at.
The Emperor of Ice Cream.
It was more than that. It was the first ever soft cream parlor.
It was a what?
Soft cream, like Mr. Softy.
Ooh, that makes him pretty advanced.
And I know, the first time I went to Russia was in 1977, and we were going on Nevsky Prospect in St. Petersburg, and Vijay Raman was the chef at a hotel near there. So it means, and Avadut Maharaj and Satyasundar Prabhu were little boys, so it's possible that our paths crossed at that time. Because I told Vijay where my hotel was, and he goes, oh, I was right near there, cooking in another hotel. Anything's possible.
So does anyone else have a question? We've kind of extended this question.
Yeah, now we can sing Hari Harai.
All right.
There is another question, but I will just postpone
Maybe
it.
we
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, is
But
it?
Dandavats
Oh,
also.
who's watching
Rasheshwari Didi.
in Brazil?
Rupa Vilas Dasa from the Philippines.
Philippines.
And Dandavats from Teresa Lord Demola.
You know who that is?
Who?
Teresa
Teresa.
Oh, I know who that is.
Tapanandini.
Tapanandini in Merida.
Mexico.
Merida, Mexico.
Suchitra. That's all, Suchitra.
So she probably appreciated your Espanol.
Maybe.
We hope.
Yeah, yes.
Rasheshwari Didi from Brazil.
She's in
Yeah.
South Brazil.
Yeah, she's in
Near Porto Alegre, but not Porto. She has her own town.
Yeah, I know. And when you go into that town, there's a sign that says something about Fritz and Frida. You know, because there's a large German population there. And I always tell her, oh, how is
About
Fritz
the
and
cats in
Frida?
Canada.
Fritz and Frida, how are they?
Ananda Lila in
On Freitag.
Kum Dasi.
Kum Dasi.
Ananda Lila.
Navin Krishna
Ananda
from
Lila
Kiev.
is
also.
in Kiev.
Navin Krishna from Lhasa as well.
Our Dandavats to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis.
And then Navin Krishna, the Russian, he's Russian? Okay, because we know another Navin Krishna.
Yeah. Beautiful name. Maharaj, do you want to sing Hari Harai?
Okay.
You want kartals?
No, because they have the mic.
They too heavy on the mic.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
too heavy on the mic, so
Okay.
I'll just sing. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama
Hari Harai.
Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama
Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra.
Ganadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Ganadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan
Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan.
Jahoite Vignana Shabishta Puran
Jahoite Vignana Shavishta Puran.
H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas
H.I. Gosai Jar Muni Taradas.
Tasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras
Tansavara Pada Renu Mora Panchagras.
Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas
Tandara Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas.
Janame Janame More Abhilash
Janame More Abhilash.
H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas
H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas.
Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakar.
Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakar.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyan.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyan.
Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamana.
Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Naratamana.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gora Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo.
Nitai Gora Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Sathira Sadashri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govind Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gandharvi Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Go Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mata Charja Brinda ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bimala Avadut Maharaj ki jai. Jai Sriman Paramananda Prabhu ki jai. And jai the Chongqing Mahila Saka Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Seva Vrinda ki jai. Sri Yudamanyu Prabhu Seva Vikram ki jai. Seva Vrinda ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande.
Jayam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna.